It might only feel like 5 minutes since Alan Carr was somehow crowned Celebrity Traitors champion. But on New Year's Day, the BBC's biggest hit in years returned to our screens. But how did this show become such a mega hit? Where did it come from? Why did it look like it might be cancelled early doors? And how did it seemingly flop down under? All questions we'll answer in this video, where we'll look at the timeline of how English language versions of the show have developed. If this is the kind of content you enjoy, please like and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel grow. It was late 2022 and the world had only just emerged from the COVID mindset. Viewing habits had shifted, audiences were beginning to tire of glossy talent shows, and reality TV was starting to feel stale. Then an unassuming new show launched on BBC One by the name of The Traitors. It was only in 2021 that the Dutch show De Verraders, which is Dutch for let me see, The Traitors, launched. Based on a parlour game known as either Mafia or Werewolf, it was produced by RTL Netherlands and IDTV and broadcast on RTL 4. Compared to what the UK and US viewers would later become used to, it was hosted at a more modest location. Castle Erestein in the Netherlands was the setting for the first 2 series. Over the next year, a couple of Belgian versions were also launched. Belgium, being one of those countries that's a bit linguistically complicated, ended up producing both Flemish and French-speaking versions. The first English language version launched in October 2022 in Australia. It's a solid series with a really strong ending.
He's a proud faithful. Faithful, faithful, faithful!
I'm a traitor, Craig.
That's the game.
It was hosted by Roger Corser, an Australian actor who really leaned into the role. Viewing figures were good enough to earn the show a second run. The UK version launched a month later. In November 2022, to relatively little fanfare, it was set at Ardross Castle, a very striking building in the UK country of Scotland, home of kilts, haggis, deep-fried Mars bars, and Scottish people. The first series is a great watch, but have some tissues at the ready because everyone breaks down, including the contestant Aaron. I don't know about you, but he looks more like a Love Island type to me. Oh, makes sense, I guess. The series noticeably feels more like a traditional reality show than the later ones, with people taking the game very personally and emotions running high. That's probably because nobody really understood the game yet, not in the way players do now. I tried watching the first episode at the time. The introductions just seemed a little bit too long for me, but when Claudia Winkleman appeared on Graham Norton as a guest, this was the clip they showed and it had me sold on the series.
Guys, straight up, Alex isn't a traitor, straight up. She's my girlfriend. I am faithful, 100%.
And initial ratings for the series were nothing special, but once the streaming figures came in, it became clear the BBC was onto something with this format. For the first couple of series, the BBC deliberately went where the viewers were, putting multiple episodes on iPlayer at once so people could do mini binge watches if they wanted to, following a BBC One airing. This also allowed people to discover the series after it had already aired. At the same time the BBC signed up, the Americans also wanted in on the action. NBC signed up to have a US version produced by the same UK production team for their streaming service, Peacock. This US version was shown later, but was actually filmed before the first UK series. On the surface, the US version looks very similar to the UK one. The same location, the same music, but the cast varies wildly. A decision was taken to mix members of the public with former reality TV contestants for the first series, or season, as Americans would say. One of the biggest differences between that and the UK version is the host, another Brit, in fact a native Scot, Alan Cumming. Being an actor like Australian host Roger Corser, he hams it up and serves a lot of high camp. If Aussie host Corser leaned into it, this guy falls face first into it. This is in sharp contrast to Claudia Winkleman's presenting style, which relies on dry humour and restraint, something much more suited to a UK audience. It's not just the hosts though. American contestants feel much more, well, American. Everyone is louder, more performative, and it often feels like they're there to make television rather than to survive the game. This has only become more pronounced in later seasons as the show shifted towards cast made up of almost entirely reality TV stars. Though they did have one interesting casting choice in the second series that must have baffled US viewers: John Burko.
Order! Order!
The success of the UK version may yet influence the Americans to rethink how they approach it, but we'll come back to that. The Canadian version is fairly similar to the US one in terms of casting, so less said about that, the better. One interesting quirk, though, is the host of the English language Canadian version is the same person who hosts the French language Canadian version. The second UK series, with the first having gained momentum thanks to streaming after the fact, this was the point where the show really began to feel like a big deal. There were two standout moments in particular. One from the final, which if you've seen it, you've seen it, and if you haven't, you probably should, and the other was this.
Thank
you. Paul just couldn't be my son. But Ross is.
It really is a game for all the family. In contrast, the second Australian series didn't fare so well. Firstly, it followed the American route by casting a mix of civilians and low-rent reality stars. There were some interesting characters early on, but the series was dominated by one traitor who wasn't subtle at all.
Look how many people I've banished and murdered. Wow.
I deserve all of it. I got rid of the other traitors, I get rid of all the faithfuls. I've done all the work.
Yet somehow managed to avoid banishment, episode after episode. He wasn't particularly likeable, and incredibly he still made it to the end. The finale ended up being an all-traitor finish. If you already disliked him though, you'll probably love how it ends. It's genuinely one of the great moments in television history. But then the Traitors franchise keeps delivering as far as great television moments are concerned. The difference between the performance of the second UK series and the second Australian series couldn't have been starker. The UK version looks secure, confident, and like a long-term hit. The Australian version, by comparison, looked like it might have already run its course. New Zealand entered the picture in 2023. Borrowing elements from the UK edition, it was hosted by Paul Henry, a presenter with a colourful history of his own, including doing a Jade Goody by getting into a diplomatic row with the people of India. Everything about the series felt lower budget, but it wasn't bad. The cast was a mix of recognisable local figures, but not the kind of reality TV professionals seen in the North American versions. Thank goodness. Instead, it featured radio DJs, comedians, and less familiar faces like a professional poker player. It was a much more tolerable type of celebrity casting, and overall it made for an enjoyable series. And personality-wise, similar to the UK celebrity series that we'll come on to later. The second New Zealand series was a very different proposition, much more in line with the UK version. It had a better setting, a larger all-civilian cast, a longer run, and clearly a bit more money behind it. It was another enjoyable series.
I want to be faithful, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought we'd all want to be traitors.
Do you imagine yourself as a traitor or a faithful?
I want to be a traitor, 100%. And I imagine myself being a traitor, yeah.
Although, like the Australian version, its future was also in doubt for a time after ratings reportedly dropped sharply. By 2025, the format had expanded again within the English-speaking world, the Traitors Island entering the mix, hosted by Siobhan McSweeney doing her best Alan Cumming impression, so in very safe hands. The UK Series 3 marked another leap forward in terms of viewing figures. The third civilian series showed continued growth and leaned into a more linear viewing experience, with no next episode previews after the first episode on iPlayer. It was also the series where it became increasingly clear that the best way to reach the end as a faithful wasn't by being the smartest person in the room, but by being slightly clueless and getting a bit lucky. Some great moments including the girl pretending to be Welsh, and of course, Linda. With the show now a genuine phenomenon, a celebrity version felt inevitable. But Celebrity Traitors differed from most celebrity reality shows, which are often populated by people trying to revive their careers. Instead, the calibre of names involved was incredible. The fact that figures like Stephen Fry and Celia Imrie wanted to take part says a lot. Shows like Strictly or I'm a Celebrity could only dream of attracting that kind of lineup. While the celebrities were paid, they could almost certainly have earned more elsewhere. It was clear many of them signed up simply because they loved the show and wanted to play the game. Claire Balding, Jonathan Ross, and others like them aren't typical celebrity reality show contestants. And once again, the ending delivered one of the great moments in TV history. An outcome so unlikely, hardly anyone saw it coming.
A traitor. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, it's been tearing me apart. I'm so sorry.
After live linear viewing and streaming had been taken into account, this reached 16 million viewers. This is England in big World Cup game territory and more than the royal wedding between Harry and Meghan, and that took place when they were popular. These ratings are something Netflix can only dream of. But watching the reactions on the spin-off podcasts from the other contestants about what happened was almost as entertaining and really showed this wasn't just another job for them. This was something they were really invested in and enjoyed being a part of. The Celebrity Traitors Season 1 will be quite difficult to top, but I think they'll have stars queuing up to take part, and they won't have to rely on the likes of Gemma Collins or any other token only way is Chelsea Shaw star. By this point, the British version of The Traitors had been an overwhelming success across 4 series, so it was hardly surprising that the US finally saw potential in producing a full civilian version. This time, it will air on NBC rather than being tucked away on the Peacock streaming service. The show's dominance in the UK also reignited interest in Australia. After airing the UK celebrity version, Channel 10 decided to give it another go. A new series is planned for 2026, filmed in New Zealand using the Kiwi production team, in an example of Antipodean cohesion. New Zealand, meanwhile, has commissioned its own 3rd season after doubts over whether it would return. Both versions will feature new presenters, Gretel Killeen in Australia and comedian Madeline Sami in New Zealand, with Roger Corser and Paul Henry stepping aside. Despite previous issues, the Australian cast is once again made up of largely former reality stars, a decision that didn't work particularly well last time. The UK version has shown that civilian casts work best first, with high-calibre only celebrities added later, or at least ones which aren't hysterical. Another great thing about the show is how accessible it is internationally. Most English-language versions are available in other countries, which means fans of the UK or US editions don't have to just wait around once their own series ends. They can immediately jump into another version and keep binge watching on iPlayer or Peacock. You'll often hear contestants on the show say how they've watched all the English language versions as well. Meanwhile, new versions of The Traitors continue to appear around the world. Amazon Prime in India has commissioned its own adaptation. My Hindi isn't great, but visually it looks incredible. If the BBC and Amazon could come to an agreement, this is the subtitled foreign language version I'd want to see. On New Year's Day 2026, the 4th civilian series of The Traitors UK launched, coming off the back of a wildly successful celebrity edition. The BBC has made the bold decision to move the show to the 8 PM slot, a clear sign that it's now seen as family viewing. It's important to understand how big this show has been at a time when traditional broadcasters are struggling for blockbuster shows. It would be a stretch to say this has saved linear TV, but it certainly means it stays a bit more relevant for longer, with streaming now playing a supporting role with how the show is consumed. Shows like The Traitors prove that linear TV still matters. People want to watch together, react together, and talk about it together. It's not just a show, it's an event. Unlike Netflix, where you can watch anything, anytime, The Traitors keeps viewers waiting, guessing and talking, and people for the most part are watching together, so it's a shared, collective experience. That tension, knowing the next episode isn't streaming instantly, is exactly what makes it addictive. From Twitter blow-ups to WhatsApp group chats, the audience experiences the traitors in real time. Those shared reactions wouldn't exist if everyone just binged at different times. It really is the return of the so-called water cooler moment. There's lots of things this video could have talked about and missed out. Different strategies, cliches, spelling mistakes, the outfits, the list goes on. Oh, and not forgetting the amazingly skilled production that goes into the show. But they probably all speak for themselves. It's difficult to see where another show as big as The Traitors will come from. There have been attempts at similar things by other broadcasters, including Netflix, but none of them have felt the same and have really caused the same kind of buzz. Particularly in the UK, The Traitors feels like a format with real staying power. It's probably peaked, actually. I can't see it doing any better than it did in the Celebrity series, but it's still going to stay at a very high standard and still probably going to be the biggest show on TV for some time. There's an industry with fans discussing theories on podcasts set up devoted to this show. It gets massive coverage on BBC News and in the press. Despite its popularity, it hasn't exhausted its core idea, and there's so many twists and spins producers can add to the game. Whilst not all will be popular, it will keep it interesting, and as long as the UK version continues to prioritise tension, psychology and discomfort over spectacle, it's hard to see it disappearing anytime soon. And just maybe, if it stays successful, Claudia Winkleman will be able to see someone to sort her fringe out. If you enjoyed the video and would like to watch more things like this, please subscribe, pressing the bell for notifications, and like the video if indeed you did.